Welcome back, everybody, to another one of our convos. Today, joining us is Emily Elbert. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for taking the time out to talk to us.
Thanks, Dario. Yeah, happy to.
So nice to talk to you. Before we get into all your music, you obviously have an upcoming album and everything. Can you kind of talk about how you got your start in music and kind of your background?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Texas. I'm from the Dallas area, and okay. I live outside of LA now. But originally, I played piano when I was a kid, but it wasn't exactly the path that I felt called to. And when I found guitar, I got kind of turned on to Jimi Hendrix and Joni Mitchell and a lot of things from kind of Woodstock era. And it just lit me up. And so I became kind of immediately focused and obsessed with playing guitar. And I'd always wanted to sing, but I was really shy about it. It's so vulnerable that it just I never really had the guts to step forth and do it. So once I started playing guitar, it was kind of I couldn't avoid it anymore. First, I think it helped because I could kind of hide behind it. But at the same time, it was once the guitar was in the picture, then it was just songs had to come out. And so I started writing and I put out a record, an early crowdfunded, pre-Kickstarter, but just on the awkward, slightly post GeoCities website,
I know.
2000s, so little PayPal buttons and really community supported little record and started playing shows and getting over my shyness a little bit, and then over time just started touring more and more, and played a lot of DIY solo shows over the years, but then in the last decade, I've been kind of mixing it up more and playing a lot with other artists, in their bands, and kind of diversifying what I get to explore musically. So in the last few years, I've gotten to play with a lot of great folks that I really love. Right now, I'm in the band of this guy named Jacob Collier, who I love, and previously with Esperanza Spalding and just some really cool folks. And so that's been a cool way to kind of use different muscles and engage with music in a different way, and also writing with people. And so, now where I'm at is I kind of just mix it up and get to explore music through different pathways. And for the first time in quite a few years, I'm going to share a record of my own songs and my own imaginings coming up pretty soon on August 19th. So that's the new wave in my life.
Yeah. I mean, you said a lot there, and there's definitely a lot of things that I kind of want to talk to you about a little bit. You said you fell in love with the guitar. That was at, do you remember kind of what age you were and what specifically kind of drew you to the guitar versus other instruments?
Yeah. I think I was about 14, and guitar, I think specifically for our generation and in the last 100 years or so, the guitar, I think for a lot of reasons, one, because it's so cross-cultural, but it also allows this physical engagement that I like. You can sit with it, or you can stand and really interact with people. It's not an instrument behind a computer at a piano, which is so beautiful, but it feels something I really connect to is being able to play guitar and make eye contact and move. And so seeing the way that people do that in a super visceral way that connects the spiritual and the physical, to me, that got me really stoked. And then, I remember seeing bands play as a teenager and seeing the way that it lit people up and made people feel connected and excited. And a lot of that's through through what rock and roll music has done, and singer-songwriters telling stories and all this stuff. And so just the role of the guitar in our culture, I just really love and admire.
Okay.
I was just crazy about it.
It's worked out. It's paid out for you. So. You said you grew up in the Dallas area. So I guess growing up, how would you say the environment of Dallas, the music scene and everything kind of influenced you personally, musically?
It definitely did in a number of ways. primarily, I would say my dad is a keys player.
Okay.
So he was definitely like my biggest musical influence growing up. Just listening to him, he's like he like gigs a lot around town and, played with a lot of different musicians. And so hearing the way that he approaches, like he's just like very thoughtful and harmonious and so that was definitely important. But then also Texas has such a rich history. It's like a complex place. It's got a lot of different cultures and ideas and that sort of thing. But it has such a rich history of like, this kind of like music of the people, from like country and folk and blues to, like thinking like Willie Nelson and folks like that. So like Erykah Badu and, St. Vincent and all. There's people who are doing this really beautiful, more tradition oriented path. And then there's people that are like taking it far out.
Yeah.
Kind of like a counterbalance to that. And all of that exists in Texas, which I really like.
Okay. And you said like, obviously, like you said, Jimi Hendrix, Joni Mitchell, like some of your biggest influences musically outside of like your dad.
For sure. It's Stevie Wonder and
Stevie Wonder. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So I guess how would you just kind of describe your sound? You listed as like soul funk. Like what is soul funk? Like how would you?
I mean, I don't know that I could say it's soul funk. I think the last song that I shared maybe has more roots in.
I say funk. I meant folk, soul folk.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I can claim all.
No, I meant soul folk.
I think it's getting harder and harder probably for everybody to discern categories, because we're in such a like a post genre world now, and we've all grew up like with MP3s and record stores that had everything and like a totally globalized music and listening landscape. But I mean, there's definitely like ley lines and like places that I've drawn from really specifically, and a lot of that is, I would say, things from the sort of like soul lineage, like especially like Motown and through the 70s, especially like, things coming from like early Stevie and Smokey Robinson through like Shaka Khan and, later Stevie catalog and Prince and that sort of thing. Curtis Mayfield, like that's all stuff that I really love and get excited by. And then also like, things in the folkio realm, excuse me, like Joni Mitchell and like really kind of storytellery, introspective things from that realm, Paul Simon and that sort of thing. And I would also I think there's a lot of cross collaboration. Like I would put Jimi Hendrix very much in that folky storytellery perspective category too. So definitely not like two separate things, but just that I like the center of that Venn diagram, especially, is stuff that I get really into.
Yeah, I definitely feel like music has for sure gone the way of like kind of abandoning genres and like kind of you set, you have to sound like this, you have to do this. Like I feel like more and more artists are kind of just exploring, because we also like grew up listening to like so many different things. And I don't know, how do you see that? Do you think that's like do you take that as like a positive thing, or do you like kind of also feel like you do need some type of boundaries, or do you just like let people just do whatever they want?
I mostly think it's cool. And I mean, regardless, I'm just going to ride the wave because that's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And it excites me because it's like an equalizer, and everybody can just like find what turns them on and lean into it and find communities around it and like weave it into their expression. And that is super cool in my mind. I mean, there's definitely beauty in like, more traditional and pure things, but nothing's pure. Everything came from somewhere. It's all, but like rock and roll has a legacy that's far, rock and roll's from West Africa, and, everything's like a melting pot.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you were talking about like how you kind of came up crowdfunding like before like Kickstarter and all that. Like you always had this very like independent kind of DIY spirit.
Yeah.
Like what kind of like drove you to that and like continue to stay on that path, like instead of maybe trying to go like labor out and stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's kind of, it's two things. One was like kind of out of just trying to get creative and almost out of necessity, because it's like no one else was going to pay me to make a record. Like, I was just like a 15-year-old kid in Texas who wanted to write songs. So it's like, if I was going to do it, I needed to make it happen. But then I think as I got older and started finding pathways that could have let me maybe pursue like, competition to singing TV shows and stuff. Someone brought me into the studio and said, I want you to sound like this other person or what. And it's like, the more I sort of got exposed to opportunities like that, I was like, oh, I don't actually want that anyway. It's a beautiful thing. And to be able to like support your life through doing something you love. And I hope to continue to do that. And I've been blessed to be able to do that in a number of ways, but like, I'm really, really value being able to do things in a way that feels authentic to me. And so it's cool to not have to like depend on the permission or, the direction of something I don't feel super aligned with.
So you cause you did your first album, junior year?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think like when I was doing like junior year, it was for sure not like put out a whole project and stuff like that.
I just got lit up about it, and it was still kind of, it was the project of a kid. Like I wrote those songs, like hiding in the park because I was too shy to play out in front of people, and it was just kind of like my interior teenage world exploring, life through that perspective, but also with that excitement of like growing community and like trying to get scrappy and figure out how to do something I was excited about, And
like when did you start touring? Like when you first started?
Kind of around then, like
around that time?
Doing local gigs, and then I started kind of like just broadening circles. And after a while, I mean, for the bulk of my 20s, I'm 33 now. For the bulk of my 20s, I was kind of like, I think there were even like 4 years where I just didn't even have a place to live, because I just kind of stayed out and kept being like, maybe I'll see if I can put some shows together in Turkey or like, or Thailand or whatever. And just like going on the internet and finding people and like putting shows together and just kind of seeing where I could take it and where it could take me.
Yeah, it's very, it's very rock and roll, right? Like, that's kind of what it's all about, kind of.
Yeah, there was some wild times, but it was really beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, what would you say is like kind of been your favorite place to tour, like unexpectedly, or
Oh man, well, I mean, I was just I got back 2 nights ago because I've been on tour with Jacob Collier, this band that I'm playing right now. And we finished the tour in Portugal, and I stayed for a couple extra days because I'd never been. And I was just like, I kind of fell in love with it. And, I mean, so often it's like these little things can shape my whole perception or experience of a place. Because it's like, maybe I have 2 days, I'm not, like sometimes I'll try to build in time and like find a hike and go stay in the woods somewhere. But a lot of times it's like, maybe I'll meet a few friends in a new place and find some water to jump into and cook to eat. And that's it.
And on to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did really love Portugal this week. Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. So like I said, you've been doing this whole thing also for a while, but now like you kind of saying that you were working with like a lot of bigger acts, you named like, I think you worked with like Gwen Stefani, Leon Bridges, Lord, like Esperanza Spalding, Jacob Collier. So how, like, what's kind of like been your experience working with like opening up and working with like bigger artists like that, and then versus like doing your solo thing?
Man, I really love like getting to play in people's bands or work with them in the studio, whatever. Like I feel like sometimes people will be like, oh, like, do you wish that you were just doing your own thing? And it's like, no way. Like, I love that so much. And it's so important to me, but I love having this like counterbalance and being able to kind of flow back and forth and like engage different parts of my musical self. I mean, from a relational human way, I really love like supporting the vision of someone that I believe in.
Yeah.
And that's like something that feels like an honor and I get excited about. And then also it's like, it stretches me as a player. It is such a great learning opportunity. Yeah. And it just kind of, it's like an explorative experience, and it makes me more balanced. And it also takes the pressure off, because then it's like, if I was depending on my music all the time to be like my sole experience of like music and musicality, and also like, you know, making my life work, like that's a lot of pressure to put on songwriting and stuff. Like, so it's cool to have different things where it's like you can ebb and flow with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you worked with such a wide range of like different artists and like different genres and musical styles that had to be like a great like experience for you to like kind of build musically for yourself. Yeah.
I feel like all those people that you mentioned, like, are people that I really admire and I've learned different things from, and it's really inspired me. I can kind of probably distill like in my own musical experience and journey, like different things that I've been like, oh, okay, well, after working with Esperanza for a while, I came out and I felt so like sort of creatively emboldened and by her authenticity and her courage, and like, you know, and working with Jacob, this like sense of playfulness is feeling way more alive for me. And like, you know, all these little things where it's like, all of those situations are teachers, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's also gotta be cool that you can do your whole solo thing for a while, and when you just go pick up and like, go be part of like a band, like a group, you know, and kind of, you know.
I like seasons.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's cool. It's awesome. So like Jacob Collier, obviously he's like a really big name, and a lot of people consider him like a music genius. And so kind of like, how did you get that connection? How did you get into the band? And like, what was your like experience working with him?
Honestly, I have no idea how we connected. I even asked him, he's like, I don't really know either. I mean, you know, the internet is a vast and kind of small world.
Yes.
We have a lot of friends in common and that sort of thing. So we were like social media friends. And then one time he just like FaceTimed me out of the blue. Like he was like, hey, can I FaceTime you? And I was like, when? And he was like, now? that was kind of how we met. And on that call, he was like, hey, I heard, you know, you might have a break, and do you want to join my band? And that was a pretty easy yes.
Yeah.
I really love Jacob. And we've been touring. We just finished about 3 days ago, and we were touring for about 4 months, really solidly. We covered a lot of ground, and it's been so amazing. Like he's just the generosity of his spirit. Like obviously his skills are kind of superhuman. Which is amazing. But the thing that makes them really admirable and really inspiring to me is the way that he like uses them to build this creative world, and then like invites us all to a party inside of it. You know, he's just like, everybody's welcome. Like, you know, it's really cool.
I mean, sounds like it. 4 months of touring, you know, that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure sounds like a good time. So get to your album now, like Woven Together, coming out here, you know, a couple weeks. How does it feel? Like, how's it feel to finally kind of like be almost there?
I'm stoked. I mean, I feel like, especially since I just got back from tour, now I'm like shifting gears and like, oh my God, this is happening really fast. And, you know, I feel like primarily it's just feels so good to like release and give away something that I put a lot of heart and love into. And that just feels like this really kind of cathartic healing experience, to be like, all right, now go be on your way. You know, all these little songs that like, you know, at different points in the last few years kind of came into my head or spirit. And then I worked with them and tried to form them, and then brought friends in and we like brought them to life. And now it's time to just give them away. And that feels cool. And it feels really nice to have something that it really feels authentic to like who I am right now, you know, and what kind of sounds excite me, and what like, I don't know, I'm really interested in the way that music can help us like feel calmer or feel more alive in our bodies, or make us think about our roles in the world, and like our healing processes and our different experiences and all that stuff. And this just like feels really true for me in all those ways. And so it's something that I'm excited to share.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of listening to it more than a few times now, and it's a very good album. Looking forward to getting out there in the wild. For those that haven't obviously heard it, and like, what can they kind of expect from this new music you're putting out?
I think the album as a whole, like, it's a bit of a melting pot, big maybe salad of like a bunch of different stylistic influences and that sort of thing. But at its core, I think it's really like the intentionality behind it is really like connective. Like I think a lot of the songs in it focus on these themes of like our roles as humans on Earth, and trying to like dig into those experiences and see what we can learn from them, and the ways in which, even especially nowadays in like a post like lockdown reality and all this stuff, like we can sometimes feel divorced from each other, but the emphasis here is on like the ways in which we're connected. And so, yeah, I think those are definitely some themes that like unify the project.
Is that kind of where the title came from, Woven Together?
Yeah.
Okay. I definitely got that coming through with the music. So like, it's been 4 years since, your last album, right? So kind of how would you say you've kind of evolved musically or changed or shifted in any way since your last time out?
Man, I mean, what a 4 years. I mean, first of all, the last project, it was songs that I really felt connected to, but it was mostly songs of other people's that I like arranged and that sort of thing. So in terms of like original music, it's been a long time since I've like shared a whole body of songs that I felt like I could really bring to life. And so, yeah, I mean, I think especially in the last few years since that last project, like I've gotten a lot more interested in exploring like stranger sounds, and less like previously. And I would say probably all of my projects, I've mostly focused on like sonic palettes or sonic landscapes that were kind of like, this is what the guitar sounded like in the room when I played it unplugged into the microphone. And on this project, it's a little bit more like experimenting with things a little bit more and trying to create like slight augmented reality things around it, and to just kind of make it a little dreamier and a little more weird, like life often feels,
It definitely sounds like very soulful too, like the project as a whole. Like definitely got that coming through.
Thanks.
Do you have like any like specific favorite track off album?
Oh man, it's so hard for me to like zoom out now because I've been, focused so much on each one. I'm interested to like, now that I'm taking a step back, like kind of listen to it with fresh ears, but I don't know. I think I feel connected to all of them for different reasons, but being able to work with people like it, there's only a handful of people that were involved in the record, maybe 6 or 7, but they're all people that I really love. And so like when I listen to it and I hear things that they played or things that we came up with it together, like those things really like get me stoked,
Yeah. Well, there are 2 tracks specifically that like I kind of like return to, is like Stream of Consciousness.
Oh yeah.
I really like the groove on that one.
Thanks.
It's very nice. And then also it was Holding On to You.
Oh yeah, cool.
Very like poignant song. Like we talk about, a lot of things in there, also like socially. And I also found that it's like another part of like your music, like your themes, like you speak about, the human experience also, but then like also from like a social aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's cool. I'm happy to hear what you, especially because not that many people have heard it yet. Yeah. I know that Holding On to You definitely like, I don't know. I think I felt moved to write a love song, but it's also sometimes Like that's just something that I experience a lot where it's like, man, the world sometimes just feels totally insane. And
Yeah.
especially in the last few years, like definitely had some days where I just like laid on the floor and felt like existential, not crisis, but like definitely a little bit of existential dread and confusion. But like finding ways, I mean, I feel like that our generation and kind of everyone that's alive right now, we're like trying to figure out how to hold all of this fear and like bewilderment and anger sometimes at the same time as being like, okay, how do we stay inspired and try to find solutions and like loving each other? And those are intense things to like hold at the same time, but yeah, tried to write about it a little bit.
Oh, I think you did it very successfully on that one for sure. I like that song.
I'm glad. Thanks.
Also, like last thing, like kind of about the album, like what was your kind of creative process going into it? Like, is it just kind of like a normal thing, or try things differently?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was honestly pretty influenced by like the time that we've been in. I started working on it. I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago. And I was working on it at first, like kind of as an experiment, just like emailing things back and forth with a friend. And then we sort of quickly realized that it just didn't feel as good. Like it didn't feel like that was what the songs wanted, was to be made on the computer, like remote. Yeah. So once it felt kind of like safe and responsible to like get a few friends together in like a home studio. And that's what we did. And it felt so good to just be able to play with people again. And so, yeah, it was all made like very much during a lockdown time. And, you know, but we took our time with it and it felt cool because there's no, like we were talking about earlier, like there's no like sort of looming industry presence.
Deadline or we need this, but
it was just kind of like, let's take our time with it and do what feels good and follow sounds we're excited by and bring our friends in and just like try to make something honest. So that, I feel like that was a very defining part of the like album making experience, was just like, let's just do something that feels healthy and fun.
Yeah. Okay. So a question we always got to ask everybody is our website is called Living Life Fearless, and we talk to a lot of creatives and everything. We call that specifically because we think you have to be kind of fearless or have some sort of earnestness to kind of put yourself out there like that. And you kind of touched on it earlier as a kid, like having like kind of being afraid to like sing in front of people and having to like overcome that. So like, do you agree with that like sentiment that you have to be kind of fearless as a creative to like really put yourself out there? And do you have like any advice for, aspiring like artists and creatives out there?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think, for me, part of trying to live life fearlessly, like you said, is like, it's not as much being like, I have no fears, but about being like, okay, I know these fears are present for me. I'm like experiencing fear on this or that is that. And I'm going to like look it in the eye and figure out how to dance with it. Yeah. And so like living life fearless is like, it's like, yeah, all right. Like we're going to have to dance with each other and we're going to have to like make it playful and it's going to get weird and uncomfortable, but we're in this together. So like, let's go, So I feel like I learn a lot from my fears and like, I want to treat them as teachers and, we'll wrestle with each other, but it's all love.
It's a great answer.
It's a good, like message too. Nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Last question is, so the future, like obviously you have the album coming out. Do you have any plans to roll out? Do you have plans to like tour on it or do any shows with it? Or like, what do you have coming up, this next year and beginning of next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a mix, doing a lot of writing and I'll be continuing to play with Jacob. We're going to set up a bunch of shows and then I'll start planning some little, solo shows and shows of the band in a few different cities. And I think I'm going to maybe work on a little like follow-up remix and some ways to like let these songs kind of shape shift.
Yeah.
Out there in the wild. So, keeping it like mixed up.
Yeah.
Seeing where it goes. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you again for joining us and talking to us. And
thank you. Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
everybody definitely go check out Emily Elbert and her new album coming out in a couple weeks, August 19th, I believe is the release date. And, we'll have all of her details and links down below wherever you guys are like watching or listening to this. And thank you for talking to us. It was a great time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my pleasure, for sure.